देवी प्रपन्नार्तिहरे प्रसीद प्रसीद मातर्जगतोऽखिलस्य प्रसीद विश्वेश्वरि पाहि विश्वं त्वमीश्वरी देवी चराचरस्य. Dear Swami Gaurangananda ji, he is Swami who has come from Nepal as a guest for a couple of days, and all other friends. Today again is Deepavali, and also this is a day of worship of Divine Mother in the form of Kali. For some communities it is worship in the form of Lakshmi. And this Divine Mother idea that we have been studying even last Sunday, let us take it forward a little bit more today as well as coming Sunday too. And this is how one sees this principle that the absolute one without second appears to us in different distinct forms as many. I and you, the perceiver and the perceived. This variety is created or seen where actually there is one. And thus it is a question that how this one appears as many. There must be some power to make that one appear into many. That which does not move, what makes it move? There has to be a power that makes it move, and so forth. It is all this is symbolized into what is called the power Divine Mother, which is considered same one as the reality, the substance, power of that reality, power of the divine. So, therefore, the divine, although has that power, it doesn't get really controlled or affected by that. Sri Ramakrishna was once asked this question, that if God also has this power of nations or Maya, because of which the one kind of gets covered and then we see the multiplicity. Since God has that, God also must be affected by that. Just as we get affected by it, we see the many, and thus our life is a kind of I and world. I run after the world, that becomes my life. And so God also must be afflicted by this, because this Maya or this divine power is in God also. Sri Ramakrishna said, no, no, God is the Lord of that power. It is inseparable from God. It is, he gives then an analogy, Sri Ramakrishna, the master of analogies, he gives this analogy. Just as there is poison in the mouth of the snake, but it doesn't kill the snake. But if the snake bites someone, then that fellow can get killed by it. So this power is inseparable from us, from the divine, as well as from us. We are part and parcel moving in that power, being moved by that power, moving in that power. And two aspects of that which prominently come to fore are uh, time and space. We see things happening in time, we see them happening in space. Actually, these two are really not very different from each other. They are, in fact, a unified thing, but our perception of the two is somewhat different. We see space and we feel time. So, we shall take up these two aspects. Today, I have planned to think about space. We see the objects as distinct from each other, and that generates the idea of space. To such an extent that we start feeling that there is something like space and the objects are kept in that space. Like we have the room here and then we all are sitting inside the room. So we get this funny idea that there is something like space. And then in that space we have these zillions of objects, small as well as big, as small as maybe an electron and as big as the vast galaxies. And they are all inside a big, huge, infinitely kind of expanded box called space. Just as we all are sitting in this room, we get this idea that there is a box in which all this is contained. That box is called then space. But actually there is no such box as space. It is the box gets created because of the perception of manyness. When we see many, one aspect of that is that it generates a distance between them, and that distance gives the idea of space. Seeing many means seeing a distance between this object and that object, and that when we see all around we get the concept of space. In fact, in physical science, that was shown as one of the great contribution of Einstein. That what happened, to put it in the layman's language, before Einstein, the physics used to think that there are given space and time, and the events occur within that fixed this paradigm of space and time. What Einstein showed that there is nothing like that that you can call as an independent space, a space which is disconnected from objects and time disconnected from events, and also the space and time disconnected from each other. There is nothing like that. So it was something that our intuition could not grasp initially. But look at this, if we critically take a look at this, that even the concept of space gets generated by our perception of multiplicity. We see things distinct from each other, and then we feel that they are out there. And then we use these terms. I am here, that my friend lives in New York. He is there, I am here. So here and there, these ideas, they are connected to the perception of space, perception of distance. And then we associate, we quantify it, associate a distance with that. That, oh, New York, about 180 miles from here. So that person is about 180 miles away from you. If somebody is in Brazil, we say them much further away. If somebody is in India, much farther away. If somebody is on moon, well, much farther away. So we keep on, calculating, the distances keep on increasing. Although at one point our eyes cease to discern the distance. For example, although we see, our vision is kind of telescopic. So we see the distance between the objects nearby. We feel it. When we start going further, the objects, their distances start becoming, less and less for us, the difference between that distance. Therefore, we see all the stars at night. If you see, we feel that they are almost at the same distance. The moon, as well as Mars, as well as a distant star, all will be seen, visually speaking, lying on the same plane. So, if we reach the sky there, then it will be a short distance, we feel. It is, but it could be, say, a billion of light years that they are separated from each other. So, this sense of space is, our space is kind of, visually speaking, a bound space. Means the separations, they start becoming smaller and smaller. It happens very often when we are, say, having trekking in some mountainous region. We are on trekking and we feel this hill looks like about 3 miles away, and the next one looks very close to that. So another mile maybe. So if I have to go to the next one, this is 3 miles, the next will be another mile, 4 miles altogether. But when you reach that, the one at 3 miles, then you realize the other one is maybe another 4-5 miles away. So our sense of sight creates a sense of distance according to how our visual this perception works. It is very interesting that we don't live in space, but we create a sense of space by our this perception. Our sensation and perception together combine to create a sense of space for us. And this gets created, therefore, differently for different people. It is very interesting to say that the sense of space for most human beings generated by the eyes. So it is, it has to make it very simple and short, that there is some object, and then some, you can say, light rays or photons, whatever term you would like to use, something from there hits my retina. And then from retina, the signal goes to the brain, where then it gets deciphered. That sensation then gets converted into what we say perception. There is a software there, a program is there. That program generates now the information about it, creates a picture, and then further there is the correlation with that picture with our past memories. Creation of a picture is one thing, and then providing meaning to that picture is another thing. I had mentioned to you how Oliver Sacks gives, Oliver Sacks is a neurologist. He gives a nice example about how a person suddenly developed a funny this thing, that there was nothing wrong with his eyes as such. The eye experts and all saw that his eyes are fine, but he was still not, his visual perception was not right. He could not recognize people by sight. He was a music teacher and he could recognize them when they would speak, but not by eyesight. So when he was brought to Oliver Sacks, he gave him a rose flower with a twig and attached to it. So I asked, well, what is it? And this professor described it very correctly, that it is a red convoluted object, roundish, and it has an attachment. It has a green linear attachment. What will you call it? He says it is not, it doesn't have the symmetry of any regular objects, so difficult to name it. It is. Then he told him, okay, smell it. When he smelt it, then he said, oh, this is a common rose. Because the visual sense, although was able to generate a picture, see, his description of the picture was excellent. But that perception did not create that next level of identification where he could connect to it as a rose that you all know. So now here the eyes have created something, a sense was generated, the image was generated, but that is not enough to get the whole range of visual perception. The whole range of space also therefore doesn't come fully there. It is in Raja Yoga, Swami Vivekananda speaks about these three things. It is in the Patanjali's Yoga aphorisms, Shabda, Artha, Jnana. That it is, there is the external input that then gets processed, that signal gets carried as a neural sense, a neural sensation. And then that gets analyzed or processed further in the brain to generate a picture, a visual picture. Similarly, our sense of hearing generates an audio picture. All these pictures that this external stimulus is called Shabda. The processing in the our neural this thing, the nerves is called Artha, and then the perception gets called as Jnana. So that whole thing generates a sense of a space, and then there is correspondence. See, this seeing is supposed to be, we say seeing is believing, because maximum of human brain is connected with this organ of sight. And then another organ that is very important in the our perception of space is the verification of visual input by the sense of touch. It is, I see that this paper is here, the eyes tell me, but I again touch it and see, yes, exactly, my eyes were not cheating me. The two have to corroborate. That gives in all a sense of space. That yes, we feel when we see the harmony and corroboration, we feel satisfied that yes, I have got the correct knowledge now, that there is this object and this object is right here. It is not there somewhere. It is right here. Now, this here has various levels. Let me tell you a very funny incident. It occurred right here. Again, the word here, you say. Here doesn't mean actually in this room. We used to sit in those days in that other hall, which is now the children's space. So, we had taken a video of one lecture, and then sometimes we would see it. That was just for, we were experimenting how the video can be taken, and while the lecture was going on and the video was being taken, somebody had pressed the doorbell there, and that doorbell also got recorded in the video so well uh, that when we used to play the video and the bell would be heard, somebody would get up to go and open the door. And then we used to tell, not here. Not here means where? It is not here, it is there in the movie. It is not here. Now, so here has, see, different levels. Is it not here? It is here, but not here. It is in the movie that is being, at that time, the bell was sounded, and that is being heard here and now, but not that bell. So it is quite confusing that there are so many different layers of space that we live in. It is not a unilayered thing, but a multi-layered structure of space that we live in. It is therefore classified sometimes, that again I am referring to Raja Yoga, where these three types of spaces are described. That one is our gross space here, the outer space that we can sense. So it is this Akasha. The Sanskrit word for space is Akasha. So this is the outer space that we deal with. Then there is again another type of space. When we think of objects, then again at the thought level we think them in space. And that becomes actually visually apparent to us when we dream. When we dream, we see that space, things are happening in that space. Our memory of the dream again comes back at the same sense level. And so we do not realize that it was a very different kind of space. Because that space, when again gets processed through our physical brain, then it gives us the memory of that space, which is different from actually this space. It is called Chittakasha, the space in the mind. When we dream, we see objects also in space, where they are. When you are asked now, the object that you saw in dream, where it is? It is there somewhere, or it is right here? It is, everything is, you can say it is right here. So also, you can say that the objects that we are seeing now separately, where are they? The sense of space is actually generated, the sense of distance is generated, and thus we feel that they are all there somewhere. And some are near, some are far away. But they are all right here. They are not far away. They are all in the brain, and by changing the program in the brain, this idea of distance will become completely different. We realize it when we speak of dream, that you were going, say, to London in the dream. Now, where is that London in the dream? Where was it? Well, just inside you. You actually didn't have to go to some other place, other space. It is right here from the point of view of your waking state. It was right here. But it was felt as if it is far away somewhere. When we were dreaming, it felt as if it is at a long distance. So the two spaces, when we compare, then one thing becomes apparent, that what was seen as far away is really not far away. It is right here. It is not there. It is here. That sense, as per context, we can also see, as per context, our sense of here and there changes. If somebody asks me that where is Dorothy now, I will say that she is in that children's room there. She is there. I am here, she is there. But when we say that, well, we are right here in Rhode Island, here in Rhode Island, they are there in Massachusetts, it is, we say, away, far away. That you're in Massachusetts, we are in Rhode Island. They are there, we are here. Then we expand a little bit, and then we say, oh, we are all in New England. We are right here. Those people in New York, they are kind of away. So likewise, we are in this USA right here. We are in USA. Those people, they're in Africa. They are there, we are here. Then we say that we are on the same planet. Those creatures who might be living on Mars or some other planet or somewhere in the, they are there. We are here, they are there. Now, our sense of here goes on changing. It is what was called as there, in a different context gets called as right here. Where do you get this? Did you get it from India? Somebody was asking me about a medication that I was taking. Did you get it from India? I said, no, it is available right here. Right here means not in my pocket or at Vedanta Society. Right here means it is available right in USA. You don't have to go to India. It is right here. So the sense here gets expanded like that. Here and then there. There also has that expandability. What you call there, it is there is a very general term. Here is used where we feel proximity, closeness, and there the term is used where we don't feel that closeness. So there means away somewhere. So that also keeps on shifting as our sense of here changes. So this generates a big idea which becomes very concrete as space, and then perceptions in this space, that this is I, this is that. It gets so conflicting that everything is mine and yet not here. For example, I say that that is my house somewhere in Massachusetts. I am here, but my is expanded somewhere. That my, it is my, but not here. It is there. So, although it is my, can we imagine about my like this, that I am here, my body is in England? Would you believe this idea that I am here, my body is in England? I and my is supposed to be connected. I am and my should be right there. But my is again goes on expanding. There. It is so. This becomes, if it is my, then why it is so far away? It is really not far away because it is connected to me by this cord of my. It is connected like a rigid solid body, I and my. And thus there is really speaking no perception of distance between them. It is uh, a question in physics that gets asked, can there be action at a distance? That how the action at distance can take place. And there are a lot of ideas and theories about that how there can be an action at a distance. It is given as an example to illustrate this, that suppose you have a stick, say 1 yard stick, and then when you push one end of the stick, the other end gets pushed automatically. So somehow the molecules at this end have some connection with the molecules at that end. So when these molecules move 1 inch, those molecules somehow instantaneously get the signal that they also should be moving 1 inch. Now imagine for a yard we don't feel much of a problem in understanding this, but suppose that yardstick is expanded to 1 light year, made that long yardstick. Will the same thing apply? That if you move that yardstick at this end 1 foot, will the other end also move 1 foot or not? Very difficult to say. We do not have really a very clear answer because to verify that you have to go there, and that takes time. It is, even if you go at the maximum speed is supposed to be the speed of the light, and so if you go there at that speed, there will be some lag. So you don't know whether it is actually simultaneously moving or not simultaneously moving. So is there something really like a distance? That is a question, because it is not something objective, but it is subjective. It is the perception of the distance is we consider it as we assign units and measure the units and feel that it is, see, not my subjective perception, but it is actually measured. But after all, who measures? The subject measures it. And so there is the element of subjectivity involved in that too. So at different levels that here and there change, and the main idea is that our addiction to this reality of space, we feel this space. We saw about the outer space, Bahyakasha, or Sthulakasha as it is said, that it is a gross space, outer space. Then there is the space in mind. Then the third layer is called Chidakasha, the space in consciousness. It is basically the program that generates the sense of space. It is not an outside space as such, but a program generation which gives the idea that it is some kind of a space out there. The objects, they are seen as out. This is how our senses are programmed. This is a programming that especially two of our senses, they make us feel that it is outside. human beings perceive through five senses. Of course, we are not counting here extrasensory perception, but these five senses, uh, two of them, they feel the things outside. The sense of sight and the sense of touch. The sense of sound too, that it is, but that is both inside and outside. The two other chemical senses, we feel them right here, like the sense of taste. Even though you may be having, say, a pizza there, you don't feel the taste there. It is only when you put it in your mouth, then you feel the sense of taste. It is felt inside. Similarly, sense of smell, it is felt inside, but we still have a sense of distance there. It is coming from there. But with the sense of this sight, it is all seen as if it is outside. A space gets, that sense gets generated by this program. It is a program generated sense that it is space out there. Actually, it is not there at all. If everything is right here, friends. You cannot say that there is actually the space, because it is the objects, the perception of objects. And let me quote here about this from Swami Vivekananda's a great lecture about this absolute and manifestation. This was his talk in the book Jnana Yoga. That chapter answers many questions about how the one appears as many. This question that how one appears as many comes in various forms to us. That how there is, if there is one God, then why there is so much injustice here? There should be equality, there should be justice, there should be, you say, no suffering here. Why so many people have to suffer here? In so many different forms this question gets asked. The philosophic form of it is how that one becomes many. And Swamiji has answered this question saying that this cannot be answered because how requires the understanding of space, time and causation. And they are only part of many. They are not part of one. There is in the absolute oneness, there is no how, why, when, where. It is, therefore, you cannot say how this one becomes many. If it is one, nothing can act on it, so it cannot really become many in that sense by acting on, being acted on something. So, in that connection, he says that we see that these objects are in space, and our mind feels that that means there is something like space that is real. What Swamiji is trying to tell, that this self alone is the reality, the absolute. It is, that never changes. Everything else changes. But we feel, no, the objects may be unreal, they change, but the space remains. Space doesn't go away anywhere. Suppose we are here now, if we all go away, yes, that is possible. But will the space go away? We don't agree that the space still will remain and it will measure the same. Suppose this space is 40 feet by 40 feet by 10, 15 feet, then even if all people are gone, it will measure the same. it is not going to change. So we feel that it has an objective reality. Swamiji says, the one peculiar attribute we find in time, space, and causation is that they cannot exist separate from other things. Try to think of space without color or limits or any connection with the things around, just abstract space. You cannot. You have to think of it as the space between two limits or between three objects. It has to be connected with some object to have any existence. There is no abstract space. He tells the same about time. Without perception of events, there is no absolute sense of time. So, this is how our perception is of multiplicity is not a true perception. A seeker of truth, therefore, has to go beyond this, has to transcend these ideas of space and time. And that is where this great idea of Divine Mother steps in. That instead of fighting with it, you worship that. You take recourse in that. And then the secret of that gets kind of unraveled before us. That yes, take it up as manifestation of Divine Mother. That in this beginning of this chapter, Vivekananda gives a picture, a chart, that there is the absolute and then there is a prism. That prism, three sides of the prism, they are called space, time, causation. And then through that prism, this one appears as variegated into all I and mine, all different varieties, is the perception of that one through this prism of time, space, and causation. And so we are seeing this variety. And what is this prism? And that is the Divine Mother. That is how people are kind of deluded. They don't see the things as they are. And so, unless this prism goes away, we cannot see the reality. And as we saw today, how illusory this idea of here and there is, and yet we are caught in it. It is to transcend that, it is important that we see this as manifestation of the power of the divine. That divine brings this idea of space and makes us feel that we are distinct. And then the distinct qualities get attributed there too. That yes, the colors, for example, again another thing generated by sight, different colors, different shapes, different type of, we say, textures, all that gets generated into this perception of space. And then the other sense perceptions, they add more qualities to that to cement, as it were, this distinction. But it is really one. There is no distinction at all. It is like the magician's power. A magician shows you many things. It is from an empty basket, keeps on bringing out a lot of dollars. Is it real? Is that it is, although it is not real, it appears to be real. So one name of this Divine Mother is you are a magician. you make this one appear as so many. And in different spots, different places, some are small, some are big. Again, the visual deception. In fact, we can see how our sense of sight can deceive us. There are many programs, many figures which tell that how things which look at the same level are actually not at same level. Things which look to our sight small and big, they are actually not small and big if you measure. Our sense of sight keeps on deceiving us in that sense. So the one who plays this magic called this universe. So Sri Ramakrishna used to say that a magician alone is real there. The magic is not real, the magician is real. So here the magician, the Divine Mother, who is having all this play, she is the reality, in whom everything rests. So by propitiating, by taking refuge in this Divine Mother, we will see then the secret of that. Just as if we become friends to the magician, then the magician can show us how these tricks are performed, that how he is bringing out all these dollars from an empty basket, and it will tell us that that actually it doesn't bring you too many dollars unless people give you. We learn all these things by becoming friends to the magician. So when we become friend to this great magician, this divine power, because of which this one appears as many, we will then be able to understand this secret of here and there. It is by analysis, we can only know that it is really not here and there. It is right all in brain. There was a very nice presentation as to how we will be able to look at our brain. Very nice idea. I presented it to a neurologist, and he said, well, it is very nice, but I don't want to discuss it. It is because it is too complicated. It is like this. Everything we process through the brain. Now the brain is connected to all organs through a very complex networks of nerves. Now suppose these nerves are kind of wires. Now you extend those wires, and from this skull take out the brain without breaking any of those cords. Extend them long enough. This is just a thought experiment. Not that we have to go to a neurosurgeon right away. It is just a thought experiment. That suppose now you extend all these nerves long enough to make that brain come out of your skull and before your eyes. Now, can you see the brain? Who is seeing whom? Is the brain seeing the eyes or eyes seeing the brain? This is like that all that there far away, all that galaxies, they are right here, but appear to be there. And even this brain, if kept outside like this, then it will appear to be there, not here. So, this dilemma will get solved, and we will have this perception of there and here in a unified here. Unified here means in this self. Imagine, when all there becomes here, then will I be lacking anything? All is with me. Nothing needs to be sought from anywhere. All is here. And then will I feel disturbed? I will not feel disturbed because there is nothing to be disturbed about outside there. All is here. Then will I feel any suffering? There is no cause for suffering there because whatever I want is already with me. Why should I? There is no cause for suffering. So, knowing this, the life will reach the perfection or fulfillment that all is here. That is why we have to pray to this Divine Mother. Because this is not something that we can do by just our efforts. It is because we being in this as a part of this delusion, we cannot remove this delusion. That delusion has to go away. Sri Ramakrishna used to give a beautiful analogy that we want to be perfect. We are a soul that wants to see the divine. And this Maya, this power is kind of in between. And so we are not able to see. So he said, look, Rama, Lakshman and Sita, they are walking. Sita, the wife of Rama, divine consort of Rama. Rama is walking ahead. Sita is the next following, and Lakshmana is following Sita. So now Lakshmana represents the soul hankering to see God. Now Lakshmana wants to have the vision of Rama, but because Sita is in the middle, cannot see that. So he keeps on praying, maybe Sita will move away a little bit and then I will be able to see Rama. And Sita understands this prayer and then moves aside a little bit so that Lakshmana can see Rama. So when this veil of Maya, as it is said, is removed, this there and here, that will disappear and all will be a unified consciousness. All will be seen as self. Self alone will be then perceived without any separation. So next Sunday we shall further discuss this idea with regard to time and let us see what we get to know by that. Thank you, friends.